What's up, guys? My name is Aiden. I'm a 24-year-old poker player from Boston, Massachusetts, and for the last 2 years, I've been playing Pot Limit Omaha for a living. I play both 2-2 and 5-5 Pot Limit Omaha, both 4-card and 5-card. So I'm starting this vlog just to share my journey, my experiences, and my thoughts, and let's jump right into the hands from last night at the Hard Rock. Alright guys, so the first hand we pick up is Queen Jack 8-8 double suited clubs and diamonds. The player under the gun makes it $25, I make the call, and two players behind me also make the call. So we go off to a flop, which is going to bring us Jack 6-3 with two diamonds. We flop top pair and we have Jack high diamonds. The under the gun player checks. I decide to also check here. I don't want to get too aggressive. None of my draws are super strong, so we're just going to check. The next player checks, and the last player who's on the button decides to lead out for $60. This player is fairly aggressive, so when the under the gun player makes the fold, I decide to stick in a flat call. Sometimes with a shorter stack, I like to get aggressive here, but we're currently sitting about $750 deep, so we don't want to do anything too crazy. The next player also makes the call. This player is a lot tighter, and this makes me feel much more worried about my Jack high diamonds. I'm believing that she probably has bigger diamonds, therefore I'm in a lot of trouble now. So when the turn comes off a 9 of clubs, I check, the second player checks, and the last player continues out for $100. Typically, if it was heads up, I would make the call here and peel off one last card. However, because I have a tight player behind me, I actually decide to make the fold, and she makes the call. The river is a brick, and we don't get to see what the players have. However, I have to believe that she had better diamonds than I did. Moving on to the next hand, we pick up Queen 10-9-8, double suited in middle position. The under the gun player makes it $20. And another player calls for $20. We are double suited and we're very connected, so because of these reasons, we're going to bump it up to $90 pre-flop, and we're going to get 3 calls for $90. If I got 4-bet to 2-300, I was going to stick in a flat call, in which case we can evaluate the flop, any flush draws, straight draws, or even any pairs, and we're going to be continuing in a big pot. However, nobody re-raised, so we're going off 4 ways to a flop, which is a total brick. So we're going to check, fold, and move on. In this next hand, we pick up Ace-7 of diamonds with an 8-3 offsuit. The under the gun makes it $15, and another player calls, so I also stick in a call for $15. Another player sticks in a call for $15, and then the small blind makes it $100 to go. The big blind cold calls for $100, and the under the gun player and the player to his left both make the call for $100. With 4 players already in for $100, I'm getting a good price, so I make the call for $100, and the last player gets out of the way. So we are going to go 5 ways to a flop, which comes King 7-3 with 2 diamonds. We flop bottom 2 pair plus the nut flush draw. I had about $400 to start this hand because I had lost a few hands before this. So when the first 2 players check to me, I have a very easy all-in for $325. The initial raiser gets out of the way, and then the big blind tanks for a minute and then sticks in the call for $325. The other 2 players get out of the way, so we're going to go off to a run out with bottom 2 pair nut flush draw. Let's see if we can hit. The turn is a 5 and the river is a deuce. No diamonds, but we hold up with bottom 2 pair, so that's going to hold up for this nice big pot. Moving on, we pick up King Jack 8-9 with 3 spades. I limp for $5. The cutoff makes it $40. The button calls, so does the big blind. Against an aggressive player, I might consider a 3-bet here. That would be a very loose 3-bet, so I'm just going to stick in the call for $40. The flop comes Jack 4 deuce with 2 diamonds. I flop top pair. I have no diamonds, but I have 3 overcards. So if I make 2 pair, I'm going to have top 2. It's going to be a clean top 2 with no straights out there. So when the first player checks, I make a feeler bet for $50. All 3 players call. So no doubt about it, I'm going to have to make 2 pair on the turn, and the turn is the 3 of clubs. That's going to kill all of my action for the hand. We're going to check fold. The next hand we pick up is very interesting. It's going to be King 9, 4, 5 with the King 9 of diamonds. I limp for $5 under the gun, and one other player limps when the button makes it $35. Everybody else gets out of the way, and typically I just let this go. However, this player is very aggressive, so I'm going to stick in a call for $35, and one other player calls too. So we go 3 ways to a flop out of position, and the flop is King 6-4, Rainbow. I have about $850 in my stack, and I just flopped top and bottom 2 pair. I'm currently losing to King 6 in any sets, but I'm pretty sure I have the best hand right now. So I decide to trap and check. The next player checks, and the last player, who's the aggressor, he fires out a bet of $100. As I mentioned, this player is very aggressive, so I'm not too worried here, so I decide to pot it up for $450. The other player gets out of the way, and we go back to the button, and he tanks forever. He asks out loud if I have a wrap. I think he just has a pair of kings. I think he's considering putting in a very light call, but he decides to let it go for $100, so we pick up a nice little pot here. Moving on, we're second to act, and we pick up Ace, King, King, 8. Ace suited. So this is a monster hand, and there's now a second aggressive player at the table. This particular player loves to raise me pre-flop. So in this situation, I would typically limp raise this hand, but I decided to open for $25, expecting this aggressive player to put in a 3-bet pre-flop. A couple players called it $25, and sure enough, our buddy puts in the 3-bet to $110. I have a very easy jam. I put him all in for about $420, and he sticks in the call. So we're going to go off to a run out. He also has pocket kings, but he has King, King, Jack. I've got Ace, King, King. So when the flop comes Queen 10, we both pick up straight draws. I pick up a gut shot to the Jack, and he picks up an open-ended straight draw, which I block because I have an ace. But unfortunately, the ace hits the turn, and I am now drawing to a gut shot, which I miss, and he takes down this pot, and we get coolered. So we're not running too great. We only have $100 left in front of us, so we top up for $400 more, and we pick up 10, 9, 8, 7 with 3 diamonds. In Omaha, we call this a 10-high rundown. These hands are very strong pre-flop. They're super connected. So I limp for $5, and when a player makes it $25, a couple other players call. I decide to repot to $110 pre-flop. 3 players make the call, and we go off to an incredible flop of 10-9-4 with 2 spades. So I flop top 2 and an open-ended straight draw, so any jack or any 6 is going to give me a straight, plus I have my top 2 pair. There are spades out there to be worried about, but I'm absolutely loving this spot. The first 3 players all check to me, and since I'm in position, I have a very easy all-in. So I go all-in for $410. The first 2 players fold, and then the last player, who's fairly tight, he just tanks forever, and then he decides to stick in a call for $410. He shows King, Queen 10, so he's playing top pair with 2 overcards, so if he hits a king or a queen, he's going to have a better 2 pair than me. And he also has a straight draw to the jack, which takes away one of my straight draws. And unfortunately, the jack comes right on the turn, therefore I need to hit a 10 or a 9 if I'm going to win this pot, and unfortunately that just does not happen. So he called pretty light there. He called with top pair and a gut shot. He probably put me on spades or some type of draw, but that's all right because we love that type of action, and unfortunately, we get felted again. So we have to rebuy once again for $500, and now a new action player sits down on my right. I'm under the gun. I have ace, queen, queen 9, ace suited. I limp for $5 because the guy on my right is super action. He's almost guaranteed to raise pre-flop. So everybody limps, and he raises to $40 pre-flop. I re-raise to $145. Everybody else gets out of the way except for one other player who is actually very tight, and he makes a cold call for $145, and so does the aggressive player. So we're going to go 3 ways to a flop, which comes Queen Jack 8 Rainbow. So I flop top set in a three-way pot here. Very, very easy hand to play. Both players check to me. I go all in, putting them both all in for they both have about $350 left behind. So we all have about the same stacks. The first player makes the call for $340 and the other player folds. The first player, who is the tight player, he has King 10, so he's chasing an open-ended straight draw. He's going to need an ace or a 9 if he's going to win this pot, and he misses. So thankfully, we actually take a big pot down. This pot was about $1,100, so that's a very nice boost after running pretty badly. So now we have an $1,100 stack, which is going to lead us into our next hand. We pick up Ace King Queen 10 with King High Spades. We really love this hand because we have 4 Broadway cards, so we decide to once again limp because it's a super aggressive table. And sure enough, somebody makes it $20. 3 players call, so action's back on me. I'm going to decide to bump it up to $155. The button makes the call for $155, and then the big blind decides to rejam for $280. Unfortunately, the raise was just small enough that I cannot reopen the action, so I cannot put the button all in. The button has about $450 to start the hand, so I would have loved to get all the money in pre-flop, but all you can do here is just call. So I stick in the call for $280, and so does the button. So we go 3 ways to a flop, which comes Queen Deuce Deuce. The button only has about $120 left behind. There's a ton of money in this pot, so I have no choice. I put the button all in with top pair, top kicker, and the button snap calls. I don't like the snap call because that usually means he has a deuce, and he is a very aggressive player, so I would not be surprised by this. And I ask him if he has one. Sure enough, he has King 5-4 deuce. So I'm pretty much drawing dead. I have 2 outs. I'm going to need to hit a queen. Unfortunately, the queen does not come, and we lose a $450 hand right after winning some of our money back, which is pretty unfortunate. In this next hand, we pick up Ace 6, 4, 3, Ace High Hearts, and 6 High Spades on the button. There's a player at the table on tilt, and he has about $250 in his stack. So when he makes it $15, I decide to go for an isolation move on the button and make it $50. The reason I do this is I believe that my hand is going to be stronger than a lot of the hands he's raising, so we're just trying to get all the money in pre-flop. The small blind also makes a call for $50, and she's been playing fairly tight tonight. The tilted player decides to rejam for $250, no surprise there. So I go for the re-isolation, and I jam the lady all in for $375. And to my utter surprise, she sticks in a call. So we're going to be going 3 ways in an all-in pot, going to a flop. There's a side pot for $250, so if I win this side pot, I only lose $50 on the hand, and if I can beat both players, I'm going to scoop. So let's see a run out. The flop is Ace 10-4, Rainbow. I flop top and bottom 2 pair, so I'm already thinking I'm way ahead. The turn is another 10, which doesn't help. It's a diamond too. It brings in backdoor diamonds. I get counterfeited, so now I'm just left with an ace and a 6 kicker. And the river is the 3 of diamonds. So the flush gets there. I'm losing to a 10. I'm losing to any better ace. But the lady shows Queen 8-9-9, 1 suit. And I actually hold up for the side pot. The main pot player shows kings with diamonds. So he got outflopped and he had a gut shot on the flop, but instead went runner, runner, diamond to scoop the main pot. When you're playing P.L.O. at the Hard Rock, you actually don't pay rake, you pay time. So every half hour, you owe the house $8, which is fairly high for the industry standard. So to compensate for this, the table decides to play a $20 bomb pot. So every player is going to put $20 in, and then the dealer is going to take $8 from each player to pay for the time, and we go straight to a flop without any pre-flop action. So in this bomb pot, I pick up Ace 10, 8, 7, Rainbow, and the flop comes Ace, Ace 4. Now, the first player leads out for $100. I have about $525 in my stack. You could go a lot of ways with this hand. You can just put in a flat call and then fold if you miss the turn. However, because it's a bomb pot, I'm not sure how strong this player's ace is going to be. It could be an ace with all low cards, in which case my ace 10 is ahead. But if he has ace 4 or he has a kicker higher than 10, I'm going to be behind. However, I have 3 overcards to the board, therefore the worst shape I can be in is around 35 to 40% if I'm up against a full house. If I'm not up against a full house, it's a coin flip. So I decide to stick in the $525 pre-flop with the hope that my ace 10 is ahead. Unfortunately, I get tank called and he does have ace king. He's got ace king queen deuce, so he was worried because he only had 2 overcards and that's why he took a little bit of time to call. But unfortunately, I cannot make a pair, and he is going to scoop this bomb pot. In our last hand of the night, we pick up queen, 9-3 with 1 suit, queen high spades. We're in late position, and we make it $25. The button calls, and the small blind calls, and so does the big blind, so we go 4 ways to a flop, which brings us jack 10 deuce rainbow. We love this type of flop because we have multiple things going on. We have an open-ended straight draw, which with a king is going to give us the second nut straight, and with an 8 is going to give us the nuts. Plus, we have an overpair. So if somebody has 2 pair or a set here, then we're going to need our straight to hit. However, if they're chasing a straight themselves, that means that our queens are actually going to be ahead, and we need to brick the turn and river. So for all these reasons, I fire out a bet for $100, and the button makes the call, but the blinds both fold. So we're going heads up to a turn, which brings the 6 of spades. I pick up a queen high flush draw, which is even better for my hand. So now I have spades, I have an open-ended, I have an overpair. There's so much going on. It's a very easy all-in. She only has $175 left. She makes the call. She has 8-9 with spades. So she's chasing a queen or a 7 for a straight, and unfortunately her spades are going to be worse than mine. She has 9 high spades. So when the river is the 5 of spades, I end up taking this pot down to end the session. So we didn't do too well, but at least we won our last hand, and we're going to go cash out.
Alright guys, so that's going to end today's vlog. We were in for $2,200, cashed out for $750, so $1,450 loss, but we'll be back tomorrow to try and make it up. Played pretty well, just got it in good, did not hit, so we'll be back tomorrow, but that's all for today guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is the first ever vlog. We'll be back next week.